You ready to go?
Yep.
All right, let's get started in three, two, and one. Hello and welcome to the Wise Guys Podcast. I'm your host, Brady Fitzgerald, joined as always by my co-host, Chris Hagan.
How you guys doing?
One of the most fun days of the year, I guess now 2 days, is the NBA draft, at least for me, and it's now complete. This is going to go down as the Trey Johnson draft. Best player in the draft goes to the Wizards. Of course, there's not going to be any other headlines of people who go
So,
beforehand. Basically, just got Ray Allen. So, all right, but actually, of course, the Cooper Flag draft. He goes to Dallas, of course, number one. Um, and Chris, I mean, I'm ready to just run through the first two, just like we did the preview. It seemed like it was chalk from the beginning. I don't think
yep.
we need to. I don't think we need a deep dive on how they fit or whatever because I think the teams absolutely love them. It'll be interesting, I guess, for the Spurs with the Aaron Fox now. They didn't give him an extension. They don't. I don't think they need to give him an extension. I think he's pretty redundant now with Dylan Harper, and he might be on his way to another team pretty soon. But nothing has happened there yet. Um, those top two teams haven't done much since then. And we start, I guess the draft really was it it almost started at 3, but it seemed like towards the end of the process that 3 and 4 were pretty much locked into what they were going to do,
Mhm.
and the draft really started at 5. But VJ Edgecombe goes to the 76ers. I think he's a good guard for them. Should help them in with they have 3 good guards now, with Maxey, McCain, now Edgecombe. They have to re-sign the guy that they got from Dallas. I'm totally blanking on his name. Uh, crap. Do you remember
Quentin Grimes.
Yes, thank you, Quentin Grimes. He had a great season for the Sixers too, with everyone injured. So they're having a plethora of guards. I think that'll help them. I mean, they have 2 guards basically for their first and second unit. So their front court's unreliable. So maybe might as well have a reliable front backcourt to help them out.
Yeah, I mean
And
it's
then
never a bad thing. A bunch of athletic guards who can shoot that you can throw at teams.
yeah,
Um, and we
yeah,
saw with
definitely.
AC has a bunch of guards
hmm
like that.
So did the Pacers.
A bunch of everything, but yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a good draft pick for the 76ers. Um, they got Brome in the second round, which I thought was funny. The guy from
Oh
Auburn.
boy.
I think he's gonna be a solid NBA player. He doesn't look athletic.
I think it'll be a decent rotational
Yeah.
piece.
Yeah, he's not
It
gonna be
seems
a
like that's
star.
always this guy's ceiling.
hmm
It's like they can come off the bench and give you 15, 20 good minutes if everything works out.
Yeah, and like one of those guys where it's like 8 points is a great night for him. Hopefully some good defense, hopefully some efficient shooting. It's not like he's gonna take wild shots that are gonna disrupt the play of the other players. And he's a
Who in
funny
this
draft
draft might do
prospect.
that? Is there anybody that we're worried about that with?
Taking some random shots. Um, well, are you trying to
Coming up.
refer to Ace
I'm
Bailey
saying-
here?
yes, I was referring to Ace Bailey.
We'll go. All right, let's go to Ace in 2 seconds. Let's not jump the Hornets, who did do they got Colin Knippel. AB's very happy about that. Towards the end of the draft, they got Liam McNeely from UConn, which I wanted the Celtics to take the pick before. I was kind of mad that they didn't, but that's another
One of the
solid player
Wizards
for them.
taking too.
Yeah, the Wizards could have taken him a couple times. It's funny. He's basically how I view him. He's basically um, God, I'm blanking on all these names today. The guy from the Wizards already from Gonzaga.
Oh, yes,
Yeah, like I feel like that's kind of his ceiling, which is solid. I mean, he's a solid shooter. That
not
yeah,
yeah.
but not.
Kisper comes off the bench on the Wizards,
That's
so
true. That is true. Um, but they also got the center from Duke or another guard from Duke, Sion James, and Ryan Kalkbrenner from Creighton. So they
mhm.
seem like they
He's a
traded
beast.
Mark Williams too. Seems like they had a pretty good draft for Hornet standards at least. Of course, we have to see how they all end up, but I like their draft picks there.
I mean, yeah, it seems like Con Knipple will be a really good fit with LaMelo and Brandon Miller,
Yeah,
like a guy that
it
can play
does.
off the ball. Like Jay Billis said that he's the best catch and shoot guy in the draft by miles.
100%. And it seemed like for the Hornets that a lot of players were not looking forward to having to play with LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller. So having the guy that is like a Klay Thompson type, that's kind of what they called him out as, and a guy that will be happy in his role of not having the ball all the time is very important to this Hornets team right now. And I think all their guys are like that, where none of them
Mhm.
are ball demanding. Um, they're not gonna they can't be ball demanding on the Hornets. I mean, it's gonna be in LaMelo's hand or it's gonna be in Brandon Miller's hand, and a lot of shooters. So I think they filled out their roster pretty nicely. Um, but let's go to Ace Bailey here on the Utah Jazz. We wanted them on the Wizards.
It was a dagger to
Selfishly,
the chest.
it was a dagger to the chest. Um, I love that Danny Ainge saw his Goofy's agent. They saw all these demands. Don't draft me to Utah. I don't want to go to Utah. And he said, "What are you gonna do about it? Like, what are you gonna do if we take you? Just not play NBA basketball? That's your option." And I think it was a right move. I think if we had
Mhm.
this player empowerment already in the draft because of this, like people were saying because of NIL, like he can do this, but NIL isn't going to last him forever. He's going to have to sign that contract
Right.
eventually. And I think it would have been a bad thing for the league if he ended up honestly where he wanted to end up and did manipulate the draft. And
This will
I
just
think he's,
allow more guys to do that in the future.
yes, yeah, it empowers a lot more guys to do that in the future. And it's not like he's in Clutch Sports or CAA or any of these big agencies that have other guys that can if you do this in Clutch, then you're not going to get all these Clutch clients ever to come to Utah, and they don't have that. They don't have that power. So I think it's a good thing that he went to Utah, honestly, in the long term. I think that it's a good fit for Utah. And I also think that he should just stop bitching and moaning because he's going to get just as many shots and just as much opportunity on the Jazz than he would on the Pelicans or the Wizards or the Nets. So
Yeah, he just didn't want to live in Utah.
yeah, pretty much. That was his yeah. So suck it up. I think he's there already. But he didn't fly out with
There was the headline that he didn't, yeah, that he didn't go out with. Who else did they draft?
Walter
Oh,
Clayton.
Clayton. Yeah.
I thought that was another good pick for them. That was a Wizards pick too that they traded. Um, I would have. I don't know if with
And they
who we
drafted a
got that
score
they
sixth, and then
yeah
would
they
have been
drafted
redundant
another scoring guard at 6, so it might have been a little
with the lower
redundant. But
ceiling.
yeah, I agree. Um, let's see if I'm not seeing he arrived in Utah yesterday. Um, so that's a good sign. Uh, it'll be funny if he tries to hold out. Like I'm really gonna. It's gonna be really funny if he tries this because it's not gonna work out. And he picked the wrong. He picked the wrong guy. I guess the wrong guy was able to pick him in Danny Ainge, where he's not gonna give a shit about Ace Bailey wanting to come or not.
I think it is an interesting situation though, because there's no way that he signs an extension in Utah. I mean, unless he just goes and he falls in love with the city. Does Utah have state income tax? I think they do. So like they don't. That would be the one thing that could level the playing field for the Jazz. Um, but it does feel like they're always just going to be in this boat of nobody to go play there, which kind
Hmm.
of sucks. I've never been to Salt Lake City. I'm sure I would like it though.
Yeah,
The
I've heard decent
reputation
things
for
about it. I've heard
NBA
it's
players is not great.
yeah, and I've heard it's up and coming though. I heard like um the the bar scene in there is getting better than it was in the past. So I'm sure as you said, I'm sure I'd like it too. They do have a state income tax. Um,
Mhm.
but it is that is yeah, that
They
would have
should
been
do
a
away
good
with that
sign
for the sake
just
of
for
the
the NBA.
Jazz and the Mammoth,
Yeah, that's the new team, right? Coming.
the new hockey team. Yeah. Well, they already played last year, but they were under the name of the Hockey Club, Utah
Okay.
Hockey Club.
The yeah,
Now
hockey
the
players aren't
Mammoth.
going to care though about Utah, right? I feel like hockey players are
No, I
like
don't
they're
think
fine
so.
living
And
in
they're all
Russia.
Canadian.
Yeah, in Canada, so, like, they'll be fine. Um, alright, well, alright, we're kinda all over the place already, but I think that's good. I think where Ace Bailey went is where he should have gone, honestly. I think if he landed farther than this, it would have been bad sign for the future rookies coming into the NBA thinking that they can do this. It was a shame he
Yep,
didn't go to
I
the
agree.
Wizards because he could end up with his attitude correctly, with the talent that he has, the length and the size of him, he could end up being a really good NBA player. So that would be it might be disappointing to see in a couple years as a Wizards fan, but I do like Trey Johnson. I think the Trey Johnson pick is the
Yep,
best that they could have picked left on the board. I don't think they need to reach
agreed.
for one of the centers that went later. Maluak, I think is good. I mean, he's played basketball for 5 years. He started as 13 years old. I think having a more solidified guy in the Wizards that can knock down shots, create his own shot is going to be important for them and should help
They
out
already have, like,
the young core.
Star is already a project at center. So
Yes.
if you draft like, I like Malawak, but situationally, like, you couldn't play those guys on the floor at the same time for, like, 2 years. It would be a nightmare.
Yeah, you're hoping one of them would develop a three-point shot, and you're already doing that with Sarr. And honestly, like they're
Mhm,
just saying Sarr could be a power forward, and maybe he will eventually, but for the next 2
mhm,
years, they should probably run him at center still and have him not take three-pointers as much as possible until he gets more comfortable with them.
mhm. And what other centers do they even have on the roster?
They have Holmes, Shard Holmes,
Rashawn Holmes.
and I think that's the only one
He had
right
some
now.
good stretches last year.
Yeah, he had some decent
Just
stretches.
yeah, free agency.
Yeah, with free agency coming up, all these teams I
They
will
had
say
Valanciunas.
yeah, they had
They traded him.
Valanciunas. They traded him. I will say with the free agency coming up, it's in this weird little gray period where the teams are locked in for now, but there's going to be more trades. We've already saw a
Mhm,
couple after the draft. There's going to be free agent signings. So teams will look different. And I expect the Wizards to move off a couple of their vets if they can get something for them.
yeah.
Let's talk about the Pelicans, the next pick. They trade for Jordan Poole. Then they draft basically Jordan Poole again.
Jordan Poole.
Yeah, they loved him so much they got him twice. Um, and I like Fears, but it's just they don't seem like they have a direction whatsoever. They don't know if they want to be good. They
No,
traded
it kind
their
of feels like they're just throwing stuff at the wall right now.
yeah, and seeing what sticks. And they not only do they love Jordan Poole so much they got a second one, but I guess they just love Zion so much that they got a second Zion Williams.
No, no, no. Is it Derek Queen? You're saying Zion?
He if
'Cause he has
in
baby fat?
In the right sense, he's a power forward that passes the ball and needs the ball in his hand coming up. Is that not Zion Williamson?
I mean, Zion's infinitely more athletic than Derek Queen is,
That's true.
but I think Derek Queen Derek Queen will be a better playmaker than Zion.
Okay. All right, I can see that. But he still needs the ball in his hand controlling that. So now they have Jordan Poole, Fears, Zion, um, and Queen, all who need the ball in his
Does
hand.
Jordan Poole need the ball in his hands?
He will have the ball in his hands. he he will whether you need him to or not. And I think the Queen pick itself is not a bad pick, especially for New Orleans who need a center. But trading
Mhm.
an unprotected first to the Hawks
Yeah,
was
that was weird.
that was the headline, I think.
I
And
didn't like that because it took away from people talking about Queen.
yeah,
It's like, "Well, he better
I
be
think
good
that's a
now."
good point.
Kind of annoying.
And now it puts a lot of pressure on Queen and the Pelicans itself.
I don't think he feels pressure, to be honest, though. Like, you at least got a guy with good mentals.
That's good. All right.
Like, he's not phased.
Are you worried? Are you worried about the baby fat now going to New Orleans, where we saw a little bit of baby fat on Zion, and then we saw a lot of man fat on Zion?
I like to think no. Um, I don't know. Money changes people, so the one thing that I was concerned about with him is, like, how much like, how much better is he going to get? Because he's got to develop his 3-point shot a little bit more, and he's going to have to get stronger and more tenacious on the glass. And there were times where it just felt like he would check out of games for like 5-10 minutes at a time. Um, which I guess like over the course of an 82 game regular season, that's going to happen sometimes. But I don't know. Like, I don't know if that's something that will develop, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, the
That's
talent is there's no question about the talent. But, like, he wasn't a great rebounder for how big he was.
I don't like that. I don't like that for New Orleans itself. That's why we talked about it before that
Yeah.
we thought that he needed to go to the right situation with the right team.
He's a project for sure. I mean, most of these guys are. They're all 18-year-olds coming into the NBA, so
But Derek Queen, he's like 20 now.
see? I mean, he's a freshman last year.
Oh yeah, no, I mean he's born in 2004. He'll be 20 in
Yeah.
December, so he's 19. But yeah, I don't know. The trade coming in with the unprotected first. If you're the Hawks, I mean, you would take top 8 protected first. You would take a lottery protected first, honestly. And they I think they just absolutely fleeced it. Like, okay, that's totally fine with me. They move down 8 spots for one of the worst teams in the West, unprotected first, is pretty impressive for the Hawks. I think the Hawks had a great draft and a great offseason so far. And um, so I like that for the Hawks a lot. Um, the
Mm.
Pelicans are going to be such a weird team. It's going to be an absolutely weird team. Um, and maybe they move
Before we
off
move
Trey
off of
Murphy.
Derek Queen, he
Yeah, okay.
said, "Nobody in that class is ever gonna be better than me."
There you go.
I feel like now that he has doubters, because he never had doubters. Like, he was a 5-star recruit, and then he went to Maryland where everybody loved him, and he's the best player on the team. Now that he has doubters, I mean, that's kind of the fork in the road for all these guys, right?
Mhm.
Like, you go from the superstar to now you're the little fish in a big pond. But I love the guy, so I'm biased.
No, and I'm rooting for him. Watching him play was great live in person, and he had plenty of moments in the tournament and throughout Maryland's run that was fun. So I'm rooting for him, of course. I do think that it's just a strange team and a bad and it's a bad thing as you said took away from Derek Queen when the pick comes in and oh we traded our unprotected first for this pick. So it's like all right,
Mhm.
it's gonna
Yeah,
be
that's weird.
yeah, the decision is gonna have to be a right one. Um, and it seems like a lot of people are talking about maybe that's a sign of they want to trade Zion eventually and try to get some first accumulated for that. But if you trade Zion and you trade Trey Murphy and Herb Jones, then your team's just getting worse for next year. So you better get some good picks from that, or you're gonna be picking in the top 5.
Right, yeah.
So and we've
Yeah, that
also
wouldn't
seen
giving up the first wouldn't make sense
yeah.
if that's the long-term direction.
So there's not a lot of direction, I think, is the worrisome with the Pelicans.
Yeah.
But, you know, if they hit on Fears and they hit majorly on Derek Queen, then we could be talking about how they're a deep team all of a sudden and they're contending for something in the West. But it's just it's one of those organizations that seems like they've never done anything correctly since the Anthony Davis trade. And like the
Yes.
fact that basically none of those assets are still on the team and none of those assets really worked out is just a bad sign to be trading your
How many first-round picks did they get out of that? It was, like, Ingram, Lonzo, and
they had the number 4 pick in that draft originally and they got Jackson Hayes who lasted like maybe a year on that team. And then
yeah.
they had a couple other first, but I don't think they turned into anything. At least didn't turn anything that's on their roster currently. But yeah, they're just a bad like they're just kind of a train wreck organization right now, and we'll have to see if that lasts or if that could change into something else. Um, speaking of not really a direction, Brooklyn Nets are the next pick. They had 5 first round picks. They took 4 ball handlers. Um, and it seemed like the consensus from the Brooklyn draft was that all these players are projects that are kind of like dartboard, like shots on a dartboard. And if they hit a couple of them, they're gonna be decent. And there's no way they hit all five because you have 5 first round picks. It just do the math. Like it's not gonna, not they're not gonna hit on all 5 of them. Um, and I do think that they have a lot of project guys on the team. So it'll be interesting to see how that team comes into fruition, how they settle out after free agency and everything. Maybe Cam Thomas isn't on this team now that they have 3 guards that they drafted. So they're gonna look different. They have a lot of young players, and a couple of them, like a lot of them, need the ball in their hands. Danny Wolf fell all the way to 27. It seemed like at that point they just took him because he was the best available. And it was like and
Mm.
that's kind of I felt like what they did all draft was like, these are the guys that we like. We don't care what the rest of the roster looks like. So it'll be an interesting team for them. I mean, their summer league team was all basically drafted in this draft. So, um,
It's the whole starting five.
yeah, exactly. Um, so it'll be they're an interesting team going forward too. Uh, the Raptors took my guy Colin Murray Boyles. And did you see the controversy, or the quote unquote controversy, of his reaction to the draft pick?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so if you didn't see the story, after he got drafted, he like put his head down and said "fuck." Um, and the consensus was that, oh, he doesn't want to go to the Raptors. He doesn't want to go to the Raptors. But apparently it was just his draft day emotion of like, man, like fuck, I got drafted, like hell yeah, like stuff like
Mm.
that. He seems to be afterwards. It seems like he's happy to be there. I think it's a solid fit in Toronto. Um, they have to. I wish he was going to a contending team that he could provide defense and scoring in the paint immediately, but they don't have a center as of right now besides Jakob Poeltl, so he could definitely play that four position, come off the bench, and I think he'll have room to develop there, where he needs to develop a 3-point shot. He needs to be better, um, like around the rim. He's great. He's one of the best scorers that I saw in this draft, and that's what people were saying going into the draft, which I was actually kind of surprised about because South Carolina guys just don't get a lot of love because they don't have a lot of national spotlight. So I was happy for him. I mean, first lottery pick, I think, in the school's history, highest draft pick in the school's history, um, first round pick for Lamont. So I absolutely love it for the Gamecocks, and I hope that he develops nicely in Toronto and can stay. I feel like he'll just be a solid NBA player for a good, like. There's a couple guys that can be stars or be busts, and then there's guys that are just be solid NBA players for a long time. And I
Mhm.
think Colin Moore Boyles will be one of those. Um,
I feel like at the ninth pick, that's kind of like a great scenario too.
mhm.
Like you're already out of the superstar expectation territory.
Yeah.
It happens very quickly in the NBA. It's almost like outside the top 3 picks.
Yes.
It's like if we can turn this guy into a contributor
Yeah.
who stays in the league for a little while, then like we hit on that pick.
Yeah, and I
So
think that
that's
I think
another
a
thing to
lot of teams
remember when
did
we
that.
talk about these guys.
Mhm. No, and I think a lot of teams did that with and especially after the third, even after the second pick in this, because of the Ace Bailey situation. It seemed like after the second pick, that's what
Mhm.
people were looking for. With VJ Edgecombe, with Colin Knippel, Trey Johnson, even, um, all
Yep.
guys that I think will just be solid contributors, whether they're stars or if they're just role players. But yeah, and speaking of which, the Suns, they traded for Mark Williams. I don't remember if this was before or
Yeah, this
after the
was really
pick. Yeah, and then they drafted Malawak.
I think it was like right before.
It seemed like it was right before, and then they drafted Malawak. So they have 2 centers. I guess you're not like, you can't be reliable on Mark Williams. He doesn't play that many games, so I guess that's kinda their mindset here.
I trade
I don't know. I don't know. So now they're a team that has, I think, 5 shooting guards and 4 centers. So they're they're quite the team. Um, and they're gonna be bad, I think, and I think that's decent for Malawak. I don't think he needs to be on a contributing team
Mhm.
immediately. As I said earlier, he's only played 5 years of basketball so far, so um, Now he's already in the NBA. Those were the best draft tiers though so far, at least from what I saw during the draft. He looked so happy, tears streaming down his face. You couldn't help but feel awesome for the guy.
Yeah. Um, the what's gonna happen with Devin Booker? Like,
Apparently, he's looking to
how
sign a
much
long
longer do you
term.
think he'll be able to stay? Really?
That's what I
Maybe he's
heard
just
most
of the deal
recently.
mindset that it's like, all right, I like it here in Phoenix,
Well,
and I don't think I think he has kids, but
he's with
um,
yeah. Apparently, he's expected to
isn't
sign a
he with like
historic
one of the
extension with the
Jenners or
Suns.
something?
Yeah, I think he was part of the Jenner curse for a little bit. I think he's out of that though. Um,
Oh, okay.
they're likely to sign a 2-year extension with him, from what I'm seeing. It's gonna be a lot of money for him to stay. And as you said, Bradley Beal now basically his mentor. So Bradley Beal's probably looking at him like, you don't want to go anywhere else. Just take what the extension's
Yeah,
gonna give you. Be like, try to get a no
like
trade
listen to
clause
the
too.
boys.
Um, so that's gonna be a very, very strange team. And if I was Devin Booker, I'd want to get out of there. But I guess he's all right
I
with
would too.
and apparently like I saw earlier that like, he was a Kobe guy and Kobe played for one team, so he wants to try to stay as a one team player. Um, I would try to go win personally, but that is I guess loyalty doesn't come. We bitch about people not staying loyal, so I guess that's a plus. It's a good thing.
That's true. I guess yeah, we can't really really complain about it. It just seems stupid to like, I don't know. You went to the finals and then went all in again, and it's clear that management doesn't know how to put together a good roster. I guess if you like living in Phoenix, then and if you don't really care that much about winning, then good for you.
Yeah, and he was on the bad teams earlier in his career, so he's like, I'm kind of
Mhm.
like I had the taste of the finals, and I guess I was just used to it, used to the sucking for the most part. Um, so that'll be interesting, and maybe they surprise us and they end up being a scrappy team, but the way that the
Maybe
roster is constructed,
it's odd.
not. Yes, it's an odd team. Um, I loved the Memphis trading up for Cedric Howard. I didn't know much about Cedric Howard before the draft, but looking at his highlights and looking at um, his story after the draft, of course, after the draft, like after someone gets picked, they always show you all the benefits of him and none of the downsides. So
Mhm.
you can always sell yourself on any of these draft picks like that way. Um, and but I thought he's great story. Like he went from D2 to or D3 to D2 to D1, just moving up the ladder. Now he's an NBA draft pick. Um, and I think he's a good spot. He's like they basically replaced um who they traded to the Magic with a taller version of him. Why am I dude, I'm bad at names today. This 2 p.m. start. I'm not doing well with names. Um, Desmond Bain. That's who I'm thinking of. So they have another guard, and now he's a little bit taller. Um,
Wait,
I have,
that's
I
wait.
have another
Oh,
guard
traded
too.
the Grizzlies.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, yeah, you're
Spoiler.
fine. This is when we started getting a little hairy. Like the Phoenix one, we figured out because of the Kevin Durant deal originally. The Cedric Howard one,
Right.
uh, I didn't know where he was going at first, and then all of a sudden it was Memphis. And Malika Andrews said Colin Coward in the broadcast, so that was really funny too.
I've seen
All
the
right.
meme of like the Colin Coward like no thanks, we're good. Like we already have Colin Coward, we don't need a Colin Coward or
Um,
Cedric Coward.
that was he also posted a meme. I guess it was when they thought he was going to Portland. He did a little I guess it's an AI edit of him in a Portland jersey and was like, "Thanks for drafting me." So that was funny too. Um, all right, we can skip around though. A couple of the surprising picks. Yang Hassan going to Portland. He was projected to be like a second round pick. He was in the stands, which was hilarious. Just as a fan, not in the green room or anything, and then walked down to the stage, which I always think those are funny and think that's hilarious. Um, but from what I've heard about him is that he's they called him the Chinese Jokic. He's 7'1" out of China. Um, I don't know what that competition looks like. I mean, if you're 7'1" in China, it seems like you're the tallest person in the country. Um, so I don't know what kind of competition he was playing against. And apparently, when you don't look at the highlights, he's very slow out there. Um, Portland, another team, they have 4 centers now too, with Robert Williams, DeAndre Ayton, Klingon, who they drafted last year, and now Yang. So they're gonna move on from 1 or 2 of those players, and it'll be interesting. That is an interesting pick that people are gonna look at for a while because of how high he got drafted, compared to what everyone said. And I'm always
Where
under the
is he supposed
impression
to
he was supposed to go in the second round. Um,
go? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so people were pretty surprised about the leap that he made, and apparently he had a great combine. He was a dog apparently in the combine, and he doesn't speak any English. So when he was asking for the ball in the combine drills and in the combine scrimmages, he would just grunt. He would just be like, "Ah, yeah," like over here. And
Like the Buddy Hield used to make this high pitched noises when he wanted the ball.
oh, did he?
I remember that like when he was at Oklahoma, there was a whole like I don't know E60 or whatever. No, it wasn't like that. But one of his teammates was saying that he would just stand in the corner and like, hey, 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 he tried to get
So
the ball.
it is going to be interesting to see what what Portland does. And it'll be I like Yang. He had a quote afterwards. They asked him in a press conference what his day-to-day looks like. He said he eats, he sleeps,
Yeah.
and he plays PlayStation 5. So, um, he seems like a good kid. Um, and I'm rooting for him though. I always like the guys that get drafted way earlier than they're projected. Um,
Mhm.
and then hopefully it works out.
He does seem like he's a guy where it's either like he actually turns into a really good player or he's plays 6 minutes of NBA basketball
Yeah.
and
Yeah, that's
fizzles
he's
out.
the high ceiling, very low floor type of guy.
Yeah.
Um,
Whenever you hear like somebody attach Jokic's name to someone else, that's generally what you're getting. I mean, considering that Jokic was a second round pick, go yeah, he could be the next Jokic. That's all or nothing right there.
that just puts a variance on the player. It's like, all right, well, he could be Jokic because we all saw him in the second round, or he could be Jokic because he's a dog and does all this stuff on the floor.
Right.
Um, all right, let's so Will Riley went to the Wizards. Do you know anything? Did you know anything about him before he got drafted?
Not really. I thought Will Riley was a white guy when I first saw they drafted him. I was like picturing one of those Illinois guys.
Hmm.
And then I looked him up and I was like, oh, I didn't even recognize this guy. Um, so yeah, I mean, they definitely didn't need another guard, but so I got nothing. I'm gonna make
Yeah,
anything up.
no,
I
that's
trust
that's
them. I think. Um,
he's 6'8" though. He could play forward.
right.
No, I don't
Yeah,
know
I mean,
anything
from
about
what
him
I've
to be honest.
read, it's he didn't like. I mean, they had Yakitunas and what was the other Euro center's name? They had like a super Euro heavy team this year, and he was came off the bench, so it's not like he was the 1A option on that team. Um, but still contributed a decent amount. So
Speaking of
I
Ya
don't know. I don't dislike it.
Speaking of Yakachunas, he went the pick before. So the Illinois back-to-back picks,
Yes.
which got to be pretty cool for Illinois. Um, he went to the Heat. It seems like he's another one of those guys. It seems like will be a solid NBA player for a little bit.
Mhm.
He's a little. It seemed like he was a little weak though. I heard that like he couldn't get past people off the dribble. So
It doesn't surprise me.
yeah, not exactly what you would want, but he went to the Heat, and it seems like the Heat always pick up a guy that is just going to be a solid contributor for a while. So
Yeah.
that's probably going to end up being a pretty good pick. Um,
There's like a little bit of Luca in him. Just a
okay,
little bit.
all right. And then I guess like Danny Wolf went later, Lee McNeely went later. We talked about them. My Celtics took Hugo Gonzalez, who I thought was much better than he was. They showed up his stats in the Spanish league, and he had like 5 points a game, which isn't great.
Isn't Hugo Gonzalez like a loan line or something?
It might be.
Or
That's a good. He was
he
he
goes
was
something.
he was projected early,
Hugo
like a top
Boss.
5 pick in um the last year. So like going on to last year, like looking ahead for the draft, he was supposed to be uh
Mhm.
picked pretty high. Um, but ended up falling. It seems like that it seemed they said immediately that he was gonna go and the Celtics were gonna call him up from Spain immediately and be on this roster. So I do think that hopefully uh I hopefully think that he goes back to being that projected top 5 pick instead of being the 28th pick here. But so I'll take it. I mean, we needed another guard off the bench. He's a little bit taller than Peyton Pritchard. So and he went to Luca camp when he was younger. So let's hope we got a late bloomer. And he's also been playing on Real Madrid since he was 9 years old. So that's got to be something.
Yeah, I see on Reddit here, Celtics fan from Madrid here. Don't be fooled by Hugo Gonzalez stats. Apparently,
Okay.
the Euro teams only play vets,
All
and
right.
even if you're a great prospect, you're not playing many minutes
I
unless you're
did. I
Luca.
watching his highlights. I mean, they were filthy. There were some filthy highlights.
I mean, do
Um,
you remember like we talked about this with the French guys last year? Like Bilal is like barely playing any minutes on that team,
yep. Yeah.
and you look at the stat, like these guys suck. But,
No. Yeah. I
yeah,
completely
good
agree.
luck.
And I think part of it was probably that he's been talked about for a long time and went to the Luca camp. So that's probably why he ended up um still being a first round pick with getting 5 points a game. Um, but I think we need another ball handler now that Tatum's out for the season. So hopefully we can get him some minutes. And man, dude, I'm looking at his birthday is February 5th, 2006. Gee, we're getting old, Chris. Getting way too old for this.
Yeah,
Um, but I liked the pick when it came out. So I hope it he only started 7 games. Yeah, he averaged 10 minutes across his 57 games that he played in. So 10 minutes, 5 points a game. It's pretty solid. Let's raise that to 20 minutes, get him to 10 points a game his rookie year. There we go. Um, Yeah, he was born in Spain and he before he turned 10 started playing for the Real Madrid youth team. So,
insane.
hell yeah.
Is that
He's
how
been
it
playing.
works over there? Like you play for an organization when you're that young,
I think so.
and then you just like graduate into it?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I don't know, like did he go to school? Did he go to did
That's
he does he
no
learn
idea.
any I there that yeah, I'm not sure. He
Probably.
I would hope so. He's gotten 2 silver medals in the FIBA Basketball World Cup and in, Spain's U18 FIBA European Championship. So, he's got some
That's
experience.
good, right?
Yeah,
Can't be bad.
uh, you can really tell we did our research here. Um,
Just learning how
the
basketball works in Spain right now.
um, and then the second round commences. Of course, they have to wait a day for some reason. That was so dumb. And then not only that, it took like 20 minutes for the second round to start. It was supposed to start at 8. The first pick wasn't until like 8:30. Um, really, I just think all of the broadcast was horrendous, honestly. I thought that the trade hats doesn't make any sense. Why can't we have the right hats on the stage? We know that the trade's
We've
coming.
been fighting this battle for years.
I know. I know. And it comes out with all these
They
historic
might just
pictures
need to
of
reorganize the calendar, like the league
yeah.
calendar, where you can make trades official earlier.
And or like if they need to be official, do that. But why not just have this is a proposed trade? Even if it's like the details are coming later and the officialness is coming later, but this pick is going to Memphis or this pick is going to Utah. Um, it's just lame. It's just really dumb and it's really confusing for casual fans who are just trying to watch the draft. Um,
Yeah,
and no other league does this. So
No, it's
It's
not an issue anywhere else.
no, it's really ridiculous. Um, in the second, I mean, anything spots you up in the second round. We don't have to go through all these guys. Um, I like the Amari Williams pick for the Celtics, a center out of Kentucky. They posted something where he had like all these stats that no other SEC player's ever done. So I was like, hey, that's got to be pretty good, right? So apparently he could pass. He can pass pretty well. Um, and 7 foot. We need a center. And it seemed last center that they drafted was actually Robert Williams. They haven't drafted a center since him. So hopefully Brad knows what he's doing. And I'm trusting him on that. Uh, do you know anything about Jameer Watkins, the Wizards pick in the second round?
I was just reading about him because no, I don't.
No,
I
I don't know
don't.
anything
He's
about him
only a
either.
three-star recruit coming out of high school. Good for him.
Yeah.
Let's see. He began at VSU. What is VSU?
The God, VSU. Oh, VSU. I was thinking VCU. I have no idea what
Yeah. Oh
VSU
wait,
is.
this is Atlantic 10. I think that's a typo.
Okay, so probably
Yeah.
VCU.
And then transferred to Florida State.
Hey,
Um,
ACC All Second Team, 18 points a game,
Senior,
five rebounds.
four-year player. Yeah. Could turn into a decent bench piece, I guess.
They said his defense is the easiest part of his game.
Hmm.
I like that.
Mid-sized wing who can defend multiple positions. I'll take that.
Shows
Denny
similarities
Avdia.
to I was gonna say
Yeah, there we
Denny,
go.
Karis LeVert, and Gordon Hayward. I like that.
I think Gordon Hayward at 43rd overall.
Yeah, hell yeah. Um,
I love comparing these guys drafted at like the end of the draft
oh
to
yeah,
like
all these guys are Hall of
NBA
Famers.
players.
Yeah. Um,
The Celtics guy
Speaking of
doesn't have a
VCU,
comparison.
I this was great in our so the draft's going on. I asked my little NBA group chat, do they know anything about Amari Williams? And they said no. And then I said, do you guys know anything about Max Shugla, who the Celtics drafted later in the second round? And my buddy said no. And I said, Suga, these nuts in your mouth. So that was a good little setup and dunk. Um, and I don't know anything about this guy either, but 18 points a game, you getting him in the second round, I'll take that. Apparently, he led a
Yeah,
bunch of
I
stats at
guess.
VCU, so I'm a fan of that too.
I like this guy Will Richard from Florida was awesome in the tournament.
Yeah,
It
he went to Golden State.
seems like a potentially could be a decent like just 3 and D guy. Who else? There was another Florida guy. I know that's Elijah Martin. Maybe that's one. I mean, they were all good.
Yeah.
It was Leighton, Martin, and Richard was their backcourt, and those guys were all unbelievable the whole tournament. So
Well, I think another pick that people liked was Adu Three from Arkansas. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his last name. Three. I don't know. But he got traded to the Lakers or drafted by the Lakers, and it seemed like people liked him. Shot 54%, 15 points a game on Arkansas, and another like a Calipari guy. Those guys always end up being
mhm.
solid in the league. So I think that was a good decision for the Lakers. Um, I feel bad that I thought I'd have a lot more to say about this draft, but I guess we don't. I mean we've been going for
I
40,
mean
so
I don't watch the second round. I will not pretend like I do. Um, so I'm just looking at the names, and I know John Tonji from Wisconsin. He's
mhm.
like 30 years old. Yeah, Tonji was born before me.
Where did he go?
So, Wisconsin, and he was awesome at Wisconsin, but he's not an NBA player. I don't think. Yeah,
He
his
ended up going to the
clearest
Jazz.
path to consistent NBA minutes would be being Max Strus. Basically, all of the like when you read about these guys, they're all just yeah. I mean, they might be good at defense, and if they can hit threes, then they'll be productive. That's basically everyone that you take from college, at least.
Yeah.
Whereas the Euro guys, they're like, we don't really know. Like the athleticism is insane. They look like the best playmaker we've ever seen. They can't shoot at all. but maybe they'll learn how to.
I think that's why these European guys get drafted so much because they just play a different type of basketball when they grow up.
Mhm.
It's a lot more passing, it's a lot more getting your team
Yep.
involved. Where the American guys, it's all about trying to get to the NBA and trying to play, trying to hit threes and then play hard defense afterwards. So I think that's the benefit of getting these European guys late and why you see so many of them come late. Um, I thought it was hilarious. I was listening to a podcast today. They were talking about the Bucks and how bad the Bucks have been drafting ever since they got Giannis. And
Mhm.
and the guy said they picked a guy with braces. They're trying to win now and they have a player with braces. Um, so you never know. I don't know how
The
the hell.
Serbian guy,
Yes, this Serbian guy.
Bogoljub
Yeah,
Markovic?
Bogoljub Markovic.
Bogo.
Um, I don't know what he will be in the NBA, but he's definitely just hilarious that that he has braces and they are trying to win now.
That is funny.
Um, let's go one last guy. Tyrese Proctor was the final Duke
Yeah.
starting five. The whole starting five got drafted in this draft. Sion James in the second round. And then of course Cooper Flag, Knipple, and Malawach. So their whole starting five going in the NBA draft. Honestly, it just puts to shame that they couldn't even make the national championship and they blew that game that they did with
That was
five
yeah,
NBA players on the court, which
and I don't see
we might
anyone
never
from
see again.
Houston getting drafted.
No, exactly. So it just shows you how crazy the tournament can get, how these one game
Mhm.
scenarios can be so devastating to some teams. And it's also kind of a cool way to like I don't know, it's cool for Duke and it's cool that they had the whole starting five go. Um
Yeah.
so yeah. Um all right, let's
This guy the guy from Georgetown, is it Thomas Sorber? Or it's Sorbet? I
Thomas Sorber. Oh yeah, he's going to be great.
feel like it should be Sorbet, but he has braces.
Yeah, yeah, and that's
We'll
fine
put it
because
that
he won't play for like 2 years and then just slide into OKC and be
right, that's the
excellent.
scenario, right,
Yep,
where they have to start paying guys, so they let
yep.
them walk, and then they have this new new crop of insanely athletic young players
That I thought that
who
was a really
finally
good
have a
pick,
chance to
and
play.
of course they just have the 15th overall pick, just winning the NBA
Right, yeah,
championship, just
why
having that
not?
15th overall pick. Um, I did like that pick a lot. Um, and it's funny. I do think going back to Brooklyn, I think getting Danny Wolf that late, even though he needs the ball in his hands, and um, they got a bunch of guards. That I do think that was a solid pick. That I was hoping that he fell to the
I kinda
Celtics
think Danny
because it
Wolf
would
should
have been
have
fun.
the ball in his hands less, to be
Who?
honest. Danny Wolf. Like,
Yeah.
he was kind of turnover.
Well, yeah. So maybe it's a good thing. Um, and he won't have the pressure of being the point forward that they drafted
Yeah,
had he was
not
initially.
he would not succeed in the NBA as a point forward at all.
And maybe that's why he fell so far. He had a lot of tears as
Maybe,
well.
yeah.
It was funny to see maybe if it was tears because he's going to Brooklyn or tears that he's falling. But
There
um,
were definitely a lot less tears than I'm used to, and
you
I
think
saw
so?
somebody on Twitter say that it's because of NIL, and these guys are, like, they're already getting paid, so it's not, like, life-changing money anymore because they've already gotten that.
Yeah, they already
I
have a
thought at
couple
least at
million.
the top of the draft, there were less tears.
Yeah, I will say that, and maybe that's the case because all these guys were highly recruited and highly paid in college, so that would make sense. Um, I think that the tiers I started with Malawak, and honestly could have ended with Malawak. He stole the draft with that picture of him shaking the commissioner's hand. He just seemed like the happiest kid in the world, so that was cool. Um, I wanna see if there's any other guys I wanna point out before I go or before we go move on. What do you know about the Penn State center that was also in the crowd that showed up? Um, has the weirdest name I've ever heard of. Yannick Corin Niederhausen?
Uh, Niederhauser.
Do you
I
remember
didn't
any of
think
his games again or any Maryland's
I
games
remember
against him?
seeing him. I didn't think that he was that good. He got in foul trouble when they played against him, I think.
Okay.
Like, I
He's an he
remember that last game that they played at Penn State.
It's funny. Like they say he's a junior, and yet he's born in 2003, and I just boggles my mind. Stuff just drives me crazy. I guess he'd be 21, so it makes sense. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
21. Um, but I thought, I mean, as a backup to Zubac, that he should be a solid player for them.
Yeah.
Any guys in the second round that
He needs to put
I
on some more weight, though.
liked? Yeah, he does. He looked very skinny.
It's only 240.
He was a lanky fella, and
Insane.
he was weird to look at. I'm not gonna lie. He was like one of the weirdest guys I've seen. Um, that's all I got for the draft. Um, some leftovers from the draft. Immediately, Lonzo Ball the next day gets traded to the Cavs for Isaac Okoro. It just seems like anyone who does business with the Bulls, the Pelicans, um, there's one other team that I was maybe even the Suns. They just seem like they always just get the better deal. The other team that's
Yep.
trading from them. Isaac Okoro was a player that I think they were ready to move on from. They gave him the opportunities to be their small forward. He never possessed the he never took that role as he should and never became the reliable small forward that they needed. So having a backup point guard like Lonzo Ball I think is great for a winning team. And I thought if the Bulls ever got something together that they would have wanted Lonzo Ball on their roster. But I guess I think there's an extension coming up for him, and they didn't want to do that. It seemed like another just bad deal for the Bulls. And they, of course, the Bulls got that guy from Germany that wasn't playing in the German finals,
Mhm.
and ended up there. So it should be it should be interesting to see him on the Cavs. I think it's a good little backup role for him where he's not the starting point guard and not even
Mhm.
I mean if you have Donovan Mitchell and you have Darius Garland, so he's the third guard in that scenario. And they need another playmaker when they're off the bench or when they're on the bench. So I thought that was a great deal for the Cavs and definitely bolsters their roster. Um, the Timberwolves
They even
did
try to
uh,
tank?
what? Who?
Like, what are the Bulls? Like, what's
I
the direction?
It's playing
Because
game,
it's they've
baby.
just kind of they've been the Wizards
Mhm.
for the last couple of years, the old Wizards, at least.
Yeah, they've
So,
been
like,
40
is this an indication that maybe they're going all in on rebuilding?
possibly. It'll be funny if they turn around and like extend Vucevic, um, or extend some of
Mhm.
their other cruddy players. They they are just they as you said, they are the definition of 38 and 46, 40 and 42, just trying to or 44, just trying to sneak into the play-in game. And or actually no, yeah, 40 and 42 it worked out. They just try to sneak into that play-in game. It seems like they have I mean, not seems like they have a cheap owner that doesn't want to spend a lot of money, definitely doesn't want to spend over the luxury tax. So, it's a shame with the Bulls because they became such an historic franchise in the 90s, and ever since
Mm,
Jordan's left, we've seen them do absolutely nothing besides a couple good D Rose years
like,
until
one
they
Derrick
ruined him.
Rose. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
It is a
honestly, if
shame.
yeah, I think I have two Bulls fans that just doesn't they don't seem very interested in the Bulls and what they're doing. Um,
I'm sure.
yeah. Hey, but every year they got the hope of the Bears, so that's something.
That's right.
Um, the Wolves did some housekeeping. They signed Julius Randle to 3 years, 100 million, and then they signed Nas to crap. I don't have the numbers up. Um,
Is it
but
like 5
5
years?
years, 125. So I thought that was a great contract
A pretty good
for.
deal.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say I think that's a great contract for Nas. It is a decent amount of money, but in the next year or two when the cap goes up, it won't look as bad. And honestly, I don't think it looks bad right now for a guy that got you 14 points a game and um on 42% shooting.
Awesome on
And
defense.
what'd you say?
Awesome on defense.
Yeah. And he's really like he is a guard that plays center, and that's how he likes to play. And he shoots a lot of threes. So I think just keeping that front line with um with Minnesota is a good tactic. I mean, they were a good team last year. Um and I think that they're going to be improving. I think they should have kept Julius Randle. He would have been the best free agent. But I I do think, I mean, you traded Karl Anthony Towns for him. You keep the asset for one more year and see how he does it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it does feel like they're a team that we were talking about having a legit chance at beating OKC and going to the finals.
Hmm.
Um, so them running it back a couple years in a row would not be a bad idea. I don't think. I
No,
think I've slowly become a proponent of just the run it back
yeah, and I think a lot of teams,
if you
there's
have a shot.
I've mentioned this before, I think on the pod, is that the patience level of teams have just gone out the window.
It's so low, so
Absolutely out the
low.
window. Um, and I think when I mainly proponed that was the Knicks, who still don't have a head coach, and they're going to run back the same roster, but don't have the coach that brought them to the Eastern Conference Finals and had their best year in 25 years. So that'll be
Right?
that'll be an interesting development of where if they still don't have a coach. Apparently, they reached out to Don
Did you
Staley.
think
I
of
don't know if
the?
that's
I was
real or
about
not.
to ask if you saw that.
Leave Don alone. Don doesn't want to come to New York and coach the Knicks. That would hey, it would be cool. Of course, I wanted to stay in South Carolina. Wanted to compete in South
Yeah,
Carolina for national championships. But it would be pretty. I mean, it would be historic. It would be the first woman head coach
it'll
in
be
the NBA.
incredible
So that would be pretty. That'd be pretty cool. I honestly thinking about it, it would be what, the first women's head coach in any professional league
in any
besides the W, of
any
course.
major sport.
Yeah. So it would be cool, but I don't want her to her there was a great video of
Yeah,
her, at the national championship game just yelling on the sidelines, and they were like, when Karl Anthony Towns gets his 3rd foul in the 1st quarter.
he retweeted it too.
He did, he retreated with a
With like
laughing
the laughing
emoji.
emoji. That
You
was
should
funny.
retweet it and be like, "My bad, guys, I'm not gonna foul as much." That like, if I saw that and I was a Knicks fan, I'd be like, "Dude, what are you doing? Like, come on, why are you laughing
Right,
about
yeah.
that?"
Like, you realize that this is an actual problem, right?
Yes, and really hurts the team. The Another thing of housekeeping is LeBron James took his player option for $56 million. Um, and then immediately apparently said, if our team doesn't get better in the offseason, then I'm going to request a trade. Um, you know what? You know what hinders that ability to improve your team is $50 million going to 41-year-old
Right.
LeBron James, and he's the king. You know, you always you got of course I love LeBron, and he was going to get that money. It's funny, I don't know if he would have gotten that money if he opted out. Like, I'm sure teams would have, I mean, yeah, teams would have gotten him that money. Any
Yeah,
desperate
I
team
think
that
so.
had the cap space would have gotten him that money. But it would have been like it would have been hard for him to go to a different team because the free agents, there's not a lot of teams with cap space. There's not a lot of teams that can even like sign free agents. So I don't know what he thinks the Lakers are going to be able to do when he has 60 million going to him on this roster, and it's already a tight capped roster. They had Dorian Finney-Smith opt out of his player option for 15 million, and I don't know if they're going to be able to re-sign him. I think there's something with like bird rights that, I mean, that's what 2K is like, where the bird rights, like you can like
Yeah, you can
sneak
go, like,
past the
way
cap.
over the cap
Yeah,
with
but I don't know how that works in real life, and it if they can't re-sign Dorian Finney-Smith, then they're going to have some trouble. They're gonna have a lot of trouble defensively, and they're gonna have to find a lot of new players to fill out the front court with Luca and LeBron. Um, yeah, oh, sorry, not 56, but $52.6 million for LeBron James. A lot of cheddar for an older player, but he is the king, um, and he's just gonna, he had that in his contract anyway, so you can't blame him for opting in.
yeah,
Um,
I guess.
you can't blame for
I
opting
mean,
in,
even
but
if
you
it's just,
can,
like,
I guess you can blame
$30 million.
him for saying, "I want to improve the team immediately after taking fifty-six
Right,
million
yeah.
dollars." That's really all the NBA housekeeping. We have
Also, like, they
some,
have Luca.
yeah, they do have Luca. Um, we have some comments. The first was, "Hey, do you guys read the chat?" I should have read that earlier than when we first started, but yes, we read the chat. Um, Zion is active as a roller in the pick and roll game. He ain't need the ball to set that big body screen. Um, and then it's Academy Sports at school. I don't know which player Peyton was referring to, but that must have been one of the draft picks that we were talking about, the academy
Okay.
sports and school. Um, they, I will say yes, if Zion could be in the pick and roll and not have the ball, but his best moments were when he had the ball and he was point Zion because it was just like an
Mhm.
unbeatable force that no one in the NBA had seen, and then he just couldn't stay healthy enough to keep doing that. Um, well, I think. Oh, also, I guess the last bit of NBA news: Malik Beasley from the Detroit Pistons under investigation for betting on himself. Um, Not just another. I don't know.
An
I don't know
annual
what it is.
occurrence at this point.
Yes, of a player betting on himself.
I
He
think
was due.
it's so much easier in the NBA to
Oh
pull it
yeah,
off.
yeah, I think so too. And the amount, like, he was due for a major extension. He had a great year on the Pistons. Was I mean he fell apart in the playoffs, but was very important for them during the regular season. Could have won Six Man of the Year if it wasn't for Peyton Pritchard, and now might be out of that extension and maybe out of the league for a year if this comes into fruition. This shit's just sad, honestly. It really is just
It
sad.
is.
Like they make millions of dollars anyways. You're just trying to scrape in a couple extra grand, I guess, doing this or helping out your buddies with bets and stuff. And as you said, it's got to be
I wonder how
easy
much it is. Like, how much is he actually making?
on the bets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if this comes in like this came out 2 hours before the show, so there hasn't been a lot of details yet. But the I would like to see if they come into like this is his. I would like to see the full report. I would like to see what he's betting on.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Show us.
The portfolio shows the portfolio.
But
Yeah. Um. All right. So that seems like all the NBA housekeeping stuff that we have so far. The free agency starts, I think, July. It's only July 1st, right when our fantasy draft starts. Um, and that'll be interesting to see what teams do. I do want the Celtics to get a little more active, maybe a couple more trades. I don't know who they. I guess Hauser and apparently Simons could be on his way out, which is interesting to me.
oh, really?
Yeah, because somehow in the deal, it's like the way that they traded for him. It's like they can flip him this offseason without having to wait like the trade. Um, I don't know what like there's it seems like in the video game that there's a trade like there's a grace period where you can't double trade guys, but in the
Mhm.
NBA I feel like
It's
it
like,
happens
yeah.
once a year.
There's probably some sort of manipulating that they can do.
And it might be because of
To
the before the draft type of deal where it's not
Mhm.
official yet and they could be able to flip them before
Right,
like
and
I
they
think
can
there's
just
probably a
rebound them somewhere.
deadline. Yeah, where they could flip them somewhere else. But him Yang, who they also got, and Sam Hauser are like their most tradable contracts. And if they just need more players, honestly, right now. So I would like to see a couple more moves from them. All right, you want to go to baseball?
Sure.
What's going on? You have the Phillies in the background. I know they're
The
playing the Braves right now.
noise in the background. Um, not not a ton has changed since we last gave an update. Um, the Mets are still completely reeling right now. I think I gave a shout out to Frank the Tank last
Yes.
time we were on here.
Yep.
I don't know if you've had a chance, but it's gotten much better. Well, much worse for them. Much better in terms of enjoying Frank's timeline because they're about to get swept by the Pirates.
Ooh.
The Phillies took 2 or 3 from him last weekend. So yeah, not things not going great in New York. Um, yeah, other than that, I mean, the Tigers just continue to win games. I still can't believe that they're the best team, basically the best team in baseball, tied with Dodgers. Um, Dodgers are funny too because it's like every year they have this loaded pitching staff, and then they all get hurt. Um, so luckily, at least now for them, Otani's back on the mound, so that's some relief. I think he was back
Yeah, he just came
last
back when we talked about him last time.
update. But I think he only threw like an inning. So I'm trying to find their last game log when he pitched. Yeah, he only threw 2 innings the other night. So very slowly building him back up, which I guess makes sense because you don't want him to get hurt again, especially with how good he is in the lineup. I honestly think it would be awesome if they just turned him into a closer and he just
That'd be
like
sick.
he hits like 2 home runs and then he comes in to pitch the top of the ninth. I think that would be awesome. I don't know if they would have to change the rules for that. I don't really know how it works, but yeah, so he's slowly ramping up. Um, I guess one interesting divisional race to watch is now in the AL East, where Tampa Bay has gotten within half a game of the Yankees, and it looks like they'll fall back today. But Tampa Bay is always a team that competes for the playoffs, even though they never make any moves in the offseason. And they just turn guys into stars and then end up trading them away. So we're kind of in like the rise period of Tampa Bay where they'll hit their peak, which is sometimes the World Series. They've yet to win one, but then they'll go back down. They'll go like 500 and then start to come back up. So
Glad you
this
mentioned the
year
Rays
it's, yeah,
because Friday, did you see the Orioles game on Friday? Um, they started out Tampa Bay was they went it was a 6-0 second inning lead. The Orioles pitcher just looked apparently it was another Japanese guy who had won a bunch of stuff in the Japanese league and then is now starting for the
Pagano.
Orioles. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so. And he had a terrible first inning and second inning, and they were down 6-0, and the Orioles ended up winning 22
yeah,
to 8.
22-8.
Yeah. It was a crate. They got 4 runs in the second inning, another run in the third, so like they quickly tied it up. And I was in Baltimore. The reason why I was watching is I was in Baltimore with a couple of my buddies, and they had it on, and then we were keeping up with it when we were going to different bars. And every time we went to another place, they were just had more runs, and it was just absolutely a bonkers game. Um, Especially for how it started. So that was cool for the Orioles. And I just want to shout it out because you were talking about the Rays.
Uh, the Orioles are slowly crawling back. They are, let's see, they're 7 games out of the wild card right now,
Okay.
which is not impossible. Definitely seen crazier things. But the shocking thing about the Orioles is their run differential is as bad as the White Sox, who have won 27 games.
Oof.
So generally, the worse your run differential is, the worse you are. Like that's how they calculate the like your they call it Pythagorean win loss,
Yeah.
which is your win loss based only by run differential. Um, so like Tampa Bay right now is 2.5 games ahead of Toronto, but they have a +75 differential, whereas Toronto has -6. So the Pythagorean win loss says that Tampa Bay is actually 9 games better than
Okay.
Toronto. Um, so yeah, that's just a tidbit there. But the Orioles are at -81, which is shockingly bad.
That is horrendous.
Colorado's at -222.
That's with a 22-8 game from 2 days
Right,
ago.
yeah, that's why I was curious because of that. I mean, the next day they lost 11-3.
Yeah.
So it didn't exactly even out, but yeah, definitely brought it back down. Um, but yeah, so it'll be interesting to keep an eye on Tampa whether or not they can hang with the Yankees. The Yankees are kind of going through their rough stretch of the season right now. Um, but it's a weird team that always seems to have success and just is never able to win in the postseason, probably because they don't bring in any stars. They never re-sign their guys to huge contracts. But they do have their best pitcher, Shane McClanahan, will be coming back at some point this season. I'm storing him on my fantasy team right now, but he was either won the Cy Young or was second in Cy Young voting a couple years ago, and then tore his UCL last year and needed Tommy John. So he will be back, which will give them another pretty big boost. So Our Yankee fan, I'd be a little bit nervous. Um, and then the American League West is kind of wild too. Now that the Angels all of a sudden have gotten hot, so they've basically caught up to Seattle, who had
Yeah.
a really good start to the season and have just been middling since. I That was the big dumper conversation that we had last week. Who could legitimately win MVP if I think Judge would probably need to get cold or get hurt for it to happen. But I hope he does. I considered putting in a ticket on it, but yeah, it's been a real shame how this team has crashed and burned. But the Angels are the opposite. They are a terrible team that has just figured it out over the last month or so, and it's now back to 500 baseball. So they could actually make the playoffs. Um, so we might, you never know. We might actually get to see Mike Trout in the playoffs again,
That would
which
be
would be
that would be
pretty
great.
awesome.
Yes, that would be absolutely great.
That was like one of our first baseball conversations on here, I think.
Yes.
Just me going to bat for Mike Trout because
Yeah.
they're never in the playoffs, and I don't even know if he's won a playoff game. Yeah, I think they got swept when they were in the playoffs last.
I have come around on that
Um,
discussion where
okay,
I'm more understanding that, like, they don't even like, some of the guys don't even play some of the games, so it's like, alright, I understand that, if you have a bad
right,
team around.
yeah.
But, like, the fact that they had Otani and him couldn't do anything is pretty ridiculous.
Not yeah, they weren't even close. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
It's not like they snuck into the playoffs and got beat. Like they weren't even close to making the playoffs, which is insane. Um, but yeah, that's a conversation that's been beaten in the ground.
Yeah.
The National League as a whole is way better than the American League. It feels like there's 7, 8 teams that can make a legitimate run at the World Series. So it's going to be a bloodbath just for the wild card. Like the Cardinals are a team that nobody thought would be good, and they were kind of hanging around 500 for a while. I thought that they would fade away, and now they're 9 games over. So I don't really
Now
know
now why is that? Do you
how
know
they're
why
doing
do you
it,
know why
but
that is? I was gonna say, like, who's is there any player that stepped up for them, or is there any is it just like is it a unit that stepped up for them, or, um, do you even know? Or are they just winning games?
I mean, like Brendan Donovan has had an awesome year. Um, but like I guess their pitching staff has just been really good. They have a good bullpen. Like they have one of the best closers in baseball, and Ryan Helsley. But they've gotten a lot more out of their starting pitchers than I think they probably even expected. To be honest, I'm trying to navigate the MLB app right now and actually look at some of the numbers. Um, but yeah, like when you look at their lineup, it's not all that impressive. Um, but yeah, the bullpen has been really good. And then here we go. Yeah, like Sonny Gray has been awesome. Liberatore, who's added and dropped in fantasy, like feels like once every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Um, he's been good. He kind of came out of nowhere. Eric Fetty, who's just been kind of like a journeyman guy, has had a pretty good season for them. Um, so yeah, I guess like just guys having career seasons that didn't really expect because it is insane when you look at their lineup. It's just not very good. Um, they do have a decent amount of good arms. I still don't think it'll last, to be honest. Um, Definitely a team that's just making it interesting in that wild card mix that's so loaded with teams. Like you have the Padres and the Giants right now sitting on the outside. And we talked about the Giants last time with the Devers trade, but like that's a team who could definitely make a run. They have a really good pitching staff. You got the Padres, who are always a threat. They're just not healthy right now, but if they get healthy at the end of the season, they have as good a shot at the World Series as anybody, I think. And then you've got the Reds kind of hanging out on the fringe. You got the Diamondbacks on the fringe. Even the Braves are 7 games out right now, but are good
Pause on
enough
the
to make a
Braves.
run.
What's up
It's
with
a
them?
juggernaut.
Why are they 7 out? Why are they on below 500? I feel like this is always a team that you see have a lot of players and a lot of, um Chris Sale has been injured, right? And he's on the Braves, right?
No, he's pitched. I think he's pitched most of the season.
I have him on the IL for
It was
fantasy.
Strider. Oh, is he on the IL now?
Yeah, I think so.
Um, so they did have Strider out for a little while, and excuse me, they had Acuna out for a little while,
Okay.
which are arguably their two best players.
Mhm.
So some of the bad start can be chalked up to that, but they also have just not like they're the guys that are supposed to be their mashers have not had great years. So like Austin Riley's had a down year for his standards. Ozzy Albies has been pretty bad this year. Um, and obviously only having like a month of Acuna, he's their best player by far. So as Marcelo Zuna was, I think, the All Star at DH last year for the National League. He's been mediocre at best. So guys that we just kind of, and the same thing happened last year. So maybe it's just these guys are declining, but dudes that have been consistent producers in the league for 5, 6 years now are not putting up the numbers that we're used to. Their bullpen has also had some struggles. I have Raciel Iglesias, who's actually pitching right now. Uh, he's their closer, and he's blown like 1,000 saves. It's been so awful.
Um, all right. Do you have anything else for baseball? Because we actually have some breaking NBA news as well. NBA's never
Oh,
stopping.
really?
Yeah.
Go for it.
The Utah Jazz are trading Colin Sexton and a 2031 second round pick to Charlotte for Yusuf Nurkic.
Oh,
Yeah, interesting trade. Another, I mean, a ball dominant guard that he's gonna be great for the second unit of the Hornets. The front court of the unit of the Hornets are pretty depleted now. They drafted that center from Creighton in the second round. So he's like
right.
starting to be their starting center, I think. They probably will sign a guy. Center is probably seems like one of the it's funny because when you have a good center in the NBA, it seems like one of the most important positions, and then the bad teams that don't have a great starting center, it seems like just the leftovers can be pretty much uh, solved in the aggregate, if you will, from other players. And I never liked Yusuf Nurkic. I like Colin Sexton a lot. I think this is another good trade for Charlotte. Um, and if Lamelo Ball gets injured for an extended period of time yet again, then he could be their starting point guard and play a similar role in what they want to do. Um, it's funny. I just think Utah is a funny team. I mean, they have Nurkic, they have Will shit, what's his name? God damn. This their big center from Auburn. Um,
Walker Kessler.
Walker Kessler. Yeah, thank you. And then they have, of course, they have Lowry Marketing. So all like 7 foot white guys is in their backcourt or front court. Um, and interesting move. I don't know. I guess they wanted to get rid of Colin Sexton anyways, and they just found an asset that they might like. And if Yusuf Nurkic is your backup center, then I'm okay with it. If he was your starting center, I'm not so much okay with it. So yeah, I think he'll be solid there. And I do like the Colin Sexton pickup though for the Hornets.
It's interesting. Um,
Yeah, it's a weird move.
yeah, I don't. It's on the fly, trying to think of how that backcourt is going to look with both of it, with him and Lamelo. Um,
Yeah, I'm guessing he comes off the bench. I'm guessing he's not like they don't slide him in at shooting guard.
mhm.
I'm gonna look up the Hornets roster right now so we get a bigger picture of it. Um, so guards, they still have Miles Bridges. They need to get rid of Miles Bridges. He does not need to be on this team. Um, Point guards, they have Lamelo. Now they have Colin Sexton. They and then I guess Nick Smith Jr. and Trey Mann. I like Trey Mann. He could be their backup. I don't know who's their shooting guard right now. Seth Curry, maybe. I mean, Seth Curry had a pretty good year for them last year, and I feel like I think he might be a free agent though coming into the season. Um, so it'll be interesting to see who they have as their starting shooting guard. Um, maybe Josh Green. Not the biggest Josh Green fan. but definitely a weird team. But I think they're doing the right thing. I think they're getting the right pieces together.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's pretty good. You got anything else?
Here.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening to our. I felt like that was a goofy draft recap, but I think we got what we needed done. Um,
Structure wasn't impeccable.
no, it wasn't impeccable, but we will be back on Wednesday, right before 4th of July, and then to have a little break until probably the following Tuesday. But in between that time, we will be starting our fantasy draft, and
Drafting.
it'll be interesting to see
Say,
if we even are. If I'm pick 12, it'll be interesting to see if I'm picking by the time we do our next.
oh, you
Or
better be.
I sure hope so. So because we have 12-hour picks, I think we explained it on the pod before, but it is that is going to be a
First round
fun,
pick a day.
right? That's what I said.
Like
I
you
said it
could
should be a
go.
day. Everyone should be ready, should be prepared. We all know what the draft date is. It should all be done on that first day. I completely agree with you. Um, and I will be calling out people in the group chat and harping them to tell them to
Good.
pick. So, thank you all for listening.